Okay, welcome to the June 18th, 2025 Berlin Conservation Commission meeting. As a reminder, open session public meetings are subject to being recorded. Your voice and image will be recorded and live on YouTube forever, or as long as YouTube exists. All right, minutes. Everybody get a chance to go over the minutes? I saw you, Louise, you had some comments about that. Anybody else?
No, it was just this tiny little thing, but
Must have been
Yeah.
a spelling error.
she fixed it.
No,
I said Louise was absent despite her
You're right.
being there voting and
Yeah.
resigning.
So that's
she was
good.
very
I
much
missed
there.
the one before it.
Yep.
Yep. So if there's no comments, I will take a motion to approve the minutes of, that was May 21st?
Yep.
So moved.
I still need a second.
Second.
Yeah.
Stereo.
Um,
I have to remember that I can't do it.
we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask you to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, we have minutes. Treasurer's report, look at you.
Yep.
You're so good.
So we have our wetlands account with $16,261.57, open space at $28,302.78, and the annual budget of $1,332.43.
Awesome. And this is all as of,
As of
like, the end of May? Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Bills and forms.
Forms. All right. Where did I put it? All right. Ethan purchased some tools
I did.
that are on the way, including the uprooter
Yep.
for weed removal. I definitely had it. I have too many papers.
Right, so there were two orders, right?
Yep.
There's two orders, yeah,
Yeah.
that, and then
The rakes.
two
and-
McLeods and the two, rake hose. Yeah. So I looked at that Canadian company, AJ, but the order process seemed sketchy. So,
Maybe I left it out there.
But-
Let me just go check.
Okay. So at the last meeting, we voted that Ethan should buy them. And so I'm assuming she's looking for the paperwork so we can sign it so you can get reimbursed
okay. I like
in a
that.
timely fashion.
Yep.
Yep. Did you look in the inbox? Was there anything from June, or is that going to be next meeting probably?
Oh, so there's the general sign off on the budget
Okay.
in there currently. Yeah, I didn't have a chance to look at it, but
Right. Okay, so the total that Ethan spent,
I wasn't able to do the rock hauling sling with what we ended up approving, so
oh.
that's okay.
Still time if we just have money, we could approve more tonight.
I think we needed to get it submitted last week.
Right.
To get it on last year's budget.
I thought we had until the end of June.
This,
I thought it should
this
be
is
there.
our last meeting.
Yeah, but I mean, if we approve up to a certain amount,
Yeah, as long as the date is
Yeah.
this month.
yeah, it just
Oh.
needs,
Okay.
it just needs to be purchased by the end of the month.
Okay.
So Ethan spent $732.97. We've got $1,332 minus $732. So we have $599 left
Okay.
in the account.
Did AJ was getting reimbursed for something, right? Did that get accounted for?
Oh,
Still waiting, so I haven't received it, no, so.
you haven't received the check, right? But
Right, but
how
it's
much
been
was that
accounted
from?
for.
How much was that for?
Like 300 and something?
It might have been, yeah.
Right,
that's about
so
right.
that's like 200 left.
How much did you
No,
need for that?
300.
I'd have to look at it again.
Right, we can always buy it next fiscal year also. Okay, so we'll fill out the paperwork and sign that and get that. Well, right, we don't need to vote on it, we've already voted last month. Anything else?
MACC has sent out their annual dues, but we can wait till July to pay that off.
Yep, out of next fiscal year.
Yep, we can pay that out of the BA funds, so that's cool.
Oh, cool.
But, yep,
Oh.
I figure we'll wait for,
That's-
just wait until July, just
Yes.
to make things easier.
That's a great idea. All right, I noticed there's no times on the hearings.
Yeah, I was trying to make it easier or more fluid, I guess, without establishing times.
Okay.
So-
So I guess we can just kind of take them in order of people being here?
I think, yeah. I
Right.
think-
Can I ask which?
I'm just here about the dam. I mean,
Okay,
I-
yeah.
I'm in the butter, just curious.
Okay,
to
perfect.
Hear what's going on.
That's great. So we'll wait 5 more minutes and then we'll take you guys and, because the other two hearings are not on the schedule. I mean, are not in the room. They are on the schedule. They are not in the room.
I have my computer over there to hook up to this.
Oh, okay.
meeting, so if I can stand or sit or whatever.
Okay.
Roll
All
my
right.
chair around here a little bit.
Well, so let's just go through our,
Oh.
and mails and notices. Mails.
Yeah, not too much going on, just inquiries about South Street property, essentially the, is that Wheeler CR? That property that was divided up into 4 different lots and has an
Oh.
all frange on it.
I
Just-
missed that.
Yeah, somebody just inquiring about it, like, what's allowed.
Where's the, what's that about?
On South Street.
The driving range.
Driving range.
Oh, did somebody buy it?
No,
just
just
Curious,
inquiring
yeah.
as to what can be done.
Oh.
Yeah, somebody month or so ago wanted to put a driving range on it, and I'm like, gotta talk to the people who own the land where the balls are gonna land now. Oh man, it's hot in here.
It is on.
Okay, so, that's that. Okay, Maplewood, we don't have anything going on?
No reports, I haven't seen any other soil import.
No, me neither.
Notices. Highland Ridge, so these photos are from Matt Morrow, who went out on, June 12th to kind of inspect the area. So Matt Morrow is the wetland scientist that, works for the Highland Ridge.
Developer.
Yeah, the developer.
Yep.
And he reported, so I'm assuming this is that area that we were concerned about.
Right,
Um,
and that's from he believes that's from the Waddles
right.
coming up, yeah.
Yep. So he's not too concerned with it. He has submitted a request for certificate of compliance, but has not provided a letter from a professional engineer, certifying that the property was built according to the plans. And I think we would like to see an as-built plan as well.
Right, did you communicate with him? I saw his email, but I didn't see if anything.
Yeah, actually, so Patrick Garner, so the wetland scientist that goes out monitors for our interest, requested that they provide an as-built plan.
Excellent,
Oh,
Good.
So.
good.
So we agree with that.
Yes, very much. All right, well, let's move on to notice of intent for Wheeler Pond Dam Removal Project.
I have some materials here, but maybe I'll just put them
Just
here.
some light reading.
Sorry to bury you in paperwork, but I don't have to.
Yeah, it's just an
I
awkward
know.
setup here.
Do you want me to come
Put
over
on
here?
the chair and I'll stand over the
Yeah.
corner.
Oh, thank you.
When I drop it along.
All right. Thanks.
Chair up.
Make sure that this comes up. Came in early to
Oh,
put it
there you
on,
go.
just to check. I'm nervous. All right. So I wrote myself a script in case I falter because I actually haven't done a presentation in person since before COVID.
Oh, no. Well,
We're an
welcome
easy crowd.
back. Yeah, we are. Just introduce yourself and the project for people who aren't familiar.
Okay. My name is Sarah Whiting. I work for a little company called Interfluve. I'm a water resources engineer, and my company, we specialize in dam removals and ecological restorations. We do a lot of work in New England. We do a lot of work in the Pacific Northwest. We have offices all over the country. And today I'm going to talk to you about the Wheeler Pond Dam Removal Project. It's for your consideration for our proposed project. And first I want to ask, tonight my expectation is that we'll introduce you to the project, make sure that you have all the materials that you need to review in your considerations, and well, I expect to come away from this meeting with some homework and as we move forward. So just want to set the expectation, like we're not expecting anything tonight, we're here to present and communicate to you. And as the chair, if people want to ask questions, I'll defer to you for how you want to do that, but I'm open to questions.
Great.
So today I'll start with introductions. I'll talk about the project goals. I'll describe the project a little bit, and then I'll talk about some of the complex permitting elements. Here we are in the middle of permitting. There's a bunch of interdependencies that we should discuss, and then I'll open the floor for questions and discussion at the pleasure of the chair. The dam owner is the Bonazzoli Family Trust. Robin's not here tonight, she's working. And our project partner, I'm just the consultant, I'm just the engineer, but our project partner, project manager is Orr's Watershed Association, and that's Heather Conkerton, who's here representing the project manager. The project is funded by the Massachusetts Dam and Seawall Program, so the work I'm doing tonight is funded by the state. It's also funded by the Eastern Brook Trout Joint Venture because they see value in this project in restoring a cold water trout stream. So they're helping out here. And now I'll talk about the project goals, because as we work in the interdependencies of all the different permits, the touchstone goals that I'll come back to, especially because we are applying for an ecological restoration permit, our goals are to restore the hydraulic connectivity of North Brook, to restore 2 miles of contiguous cold water fishery. It currently supports several trout species, but they can't get from point A to point B because the dam's in the way. To eliminate the public safety hazard associated with the failing dam. It's in unsafe condition currently. It's intermediate size, significant hazard, and sort of the burden on the owner is that it needs inspections all the time, and it is identified in the community municipal vulnerability preparedness plan as a hazard you'd like to get rid of, so hopefully we can help you check that box. And then this reach of North Brook is currently impaired for temperature and dissolved oxygen, and so by taking out the dam, we think, and having the impoundment grow over with some tree canopy, it will lower the temperature. Orr's a couple years ago did a study for temperature in and out of the pond, of water flowing in and out of the pond, and so we identified that we think that by taking the impoundment out, we should be able to improve water quality. And now, I know you know where we are, but I'll just get us all situated and oriented. We're here in Berlin, Worcester County, Massachusetts, the frontier, the leading edge of the development that's creeping westward. In the Suasco watershed, where in a headwater, North Brook is a headwater to the Assabet River that joins up with the Sudbury, turns into the Concord, flows northeast to the Merrimack, and then deposits into the Atlantic Ocean at Newburyport, Plum Island, Salisbury Beach. So here we are up in the upper watershed. And then in Berlin, we are in the southernmost corner, like on the edge of Northborough. So in that little red spot right there. So just so, so we all know where we are. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit, and then I'm gonna turn everything sideways so that we can make the most of our maps. North is on the right now. This is the current state of Wheeler Pond. It probably looks a lot like this right now. We've had a lot of rain, there's a lot of high water. This is generally the impoundment at its normal pool. The Bonazzoli Family Trust owns a little bit more than is seen here, but I've delineated in red the parcels that we expect to become part of the project, that we expect to have to, do a little bit of work. This is Pleasant Street at the bottom. The post office and the 5-way intersection is down on the right, the hotel and River Bridge are, off that way. Crosby Road is on the top corner. So we're oriented.
Yep.
And one important thing to know is almost the entire project area is in your jurisdiction. It's either land underwater or wetland, or in your 25-foot no build zone, or the 50-foot or the 100-foot. So the entire footprint is in your jurisdiction. And so this is going to be a story about conversions. So in this figure right here, what I have delineated in gray, that like Loch Ness Monster, that's where we expect to have like heavy equipment related to, cleaning up the impoundment as we take down the dam. The black line is the wetland. The different dashed lines are the 25, 50, and 100-foot. And as this area down here along Pleasant Street, we plan, it's upland area, it's in the buffer zones. That's where we're planning to stage, put all the equipment overnight, stockpile things. It's where we expect the equipment to be moving in and out during the course of the project. That is also, all within the 100-foot buffer zone. There's just that tiny little sliver that's not in wetland or buffer. But then if we, that is still in your jurisdiction anyway, because riverfront area comes into play. So it's like 30 square feet that's outside your jurisdiction.
Right.
For all intents and purposes, it all is.
And just for anyone who's not familiar, can you just point to where the dam actually is?
Yes, the dam is, it's probably better to see without all this stuff on it. The dam starts here, and it goes all the way across. It's this flat lobe at the bottom of the stomach. Oh, sorry. And the outlet is here. If you're driving along Pleasant Street and you see the nice pretty box stone outlet, it's right there. And then it actually continues on into this area a little bit, but you wouldn't necessarily know you were walking on it over here. It's just a little bit of a pile of dirt. But this is, over here, it's this beautiful stone wall. It has some really nice granite, which we'll be salvaging as much as we can. So if anybody needs any granite, we'll be looking to dispose of that at some point.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
All right. Okay, so the gray footprints are the work areas. Just want to point out, that's where we think we're going to have to like muck out and build some channels. And then I want to point out to you up here at Crosby Road, I'm going to talk about that a little bit differently. When we take out the dam, we have done analyses to see what we think is going to happen with head cutting and, when the channel forms, how much are we going to build and how much are we going to let evolve naturally. We want to make sure that we have a provision in our permit, whether we build it or not, to put in a grade control to protect Crosby Road if we determine that it's starting to march its way up there. We want to maintain connectivity of the riverbed and to make sure that we don't undermine that culvert up there. We'll talk about that too, but we are asking to permit that, and we will build it if we have to. We don't think we're going to have to, but we'll monitor. Our plan is to monitor and fix it if it starts to emerge.
How long would that take? Like, what's the timeline for that kind of thing to happen?
Yeah, so we, in our investigations for the site, we took a canoe out and we take a probing rod and we have our survey equipment and we monitor the top of the sediment, and then we just shove the pole down to measure the bottom of the sediment. And so in our project plans, we have lots of data points that show how thick we think that is. And we have information on the material we think that is. We think that the sand and the silt within the path of the channel will come out pretty quickly. It's pretty standard that you take the dam down, and if you were to just let it run out, it would run out in a couple of days. And if you had a storm event, it would run out during the event. Mm-hmm. Once we get upstream at that point, we've got a beaver dam in the impoundment, which is something else we should all consider and talk about. And it starts to get gravelly and cobbly. And the gravel and cobble isn't gonna just move out and go away. It's gonna redistribute in there, and it's gonna make a nice stream bed. that can take, 1, 2, 3, depend, if you get a big storm event, it
Right,
could
it
happen right
depends on the
away.
precipitation.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we have a couple of dry years in a row, it's gonna take longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have a couple of dry years in a row, the vegetation moves in, holds it all together, and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we've got a beaver doing a lot of work in there.
When was the dam built?
That, there is a stone over here that says 1905.
Oh, wow.
But it is much older than that. There has been a dam in that site for a really long time. I think going back to the 1700s, there's been something.
Yeah.
Wow.
You remember that, Walter?
I used to work there.
We do have a cultural resources report by an archaeologist who they did some preliminary work to help us identify potential resources there. So that is available for you if you want to read it. It's really interesting. It goes into a lot of depth. And that is part of the permitting process to know about those things. So, all right, moving on. This project is. The whole thing takes place in resource areas. It's really going to be a story about conversions from land underwater, from an impoundment to a river. We have done the math and we've done the modeling to show what we think the footprint of the river is going to be after we take the dam out. And we're going to see a contraction of land underwater, and it's going to go all the way up to Crosby Road, but once we get above about that point, we won't necessarily see a difference in the shape and the footprint of the water. These are the work areas, just highlighting them for you so that you can see them on top of the land underwater. A lot of our construction work is actually going to be in the footprint of the land underwater, which I think is not typical.
Can you point out the location of the beaver dam?
Yeah.
Is it?
It's right up here.
Okay.
It's right up there. Actually, I'm really excited about that because I think it's going to be protective in the impoundment, and we won't have to get close to it with equipment. Stay away from it. By taking out the dam, we're going to contract the 100-year floodplain. It's going to reduce flood levels. So that's beneficial for a couple of different reasons. But that means that the bordering land subject to flooding footprint kind of shrinks in a little bit. We're removing material from the floodplain and the floodway. We can talk about what that might mean for permitting in Berlin after this. And then by taking down the dam, you get new jurisdictional area. You get new riverfront, because there's no riverfront along the impoundment now, but you will have that as part of your jurisdiction in the future. In summary, the resource areas that I've acknowledged and talked about tonight include bank, bordering vegetated wetland, land underwater, bordering land subject to flooding, riverfront. And then I'm aware of and tracking, as the engineer in me, the regulatory floodplain with respect to FEMA and flood mapping. Regulatory floodway does come into play here. And then Army Corps wetlands. Sometimes they're slightly different. That land underwater is defined a little bit differently, but Army Corps will be reviewing this because we are going to be managing the sediment in the impoundment, and that's a dredge situation, and they get involved with that. So,
Will you be taking any of the sediment off-site?
yes, I think we will. The quantity is not necessarily known yet, but the entire volume of the impoundment we think is filled with 50,000 cubic yards of deposited material over many years. We think the mobile fraction is about 7,500, and that's the stuff that would move out quickly and over time. We expect that we will dig out and move off somewhere between 3,500 and 4,000 cubic yards, which kind of makes it a major project.
Sure. Yep.
And we'll be working with Mass DEP through the 401 water quality certification to pin down that number, but it's in that range. So with respect to the project and how we expect it to go, the different tasks that we would have to do is prepare an access and staging area, implement erosion and sediment controls, remove the dam and the secondary outlets. There's 2 outlets. We will construct manually a pilot channel through the lower part of the impoundment, through the stomach part, and then maybe more interesting for you, and we can get into this and talk about this later or tonight. The big thing is gonna be to restore vegetation to the newly dried out area and manage the invasives that are on the fringes right now. And then potentially optionally install that grade control up by Crosby Road. Yeah, so in pictures, that's the staging area. We think we're gonna have to clear all of that. It's a tangle of trees, a lot of them are dead, some of them are alive. It's a lot of invasive vines. We do expect we'll have to clear that whole thing. We're gonna install sediment and erosion controls, which is that line on the edge of the staging area and this little line here. Most of the time this outlet is dry. And then the cultural and historic resources have asked us to leave some of the dam foundation in place. And so we'll put a boundary around the old dam foundation, or the old mill foundation. And we won't go in there, and there's a bunch of granite stones and a couple foundations, and the plan is to leave them. So we'll isolate the no-touch areas, and then the contractor will implement the water controls. All work is intended to be done outside of actively flowing water. Remove the weir, remove the dam, and we plan to move the channel over a little bit. Right now, the channel comes out through the stone sluiceway, but we think that the river used to follow a path to River Right. If you're looking downstream, it'd be River Right. If you're standing on the road, it'll be on your left. And we plan to realign the channel so that it goes straight through the Pleasant Street Bridge to avoid that jog. That relieves some of the pressure on the bridge foundations. And then we plan to dig a pilot channel. So we will manually create that. We'll dredge out the mud, cart it off, and then create the banks using bioengineering treatments, which would be a combination of fabric and vegetation, just to stabilize it in place, give it a good head start so that it doesn't wash away in the first big storm. And then also in the plans, this is upstream at Crosby Road. On the plan sets, we have the plan view where you're looking down on top of the site, and then we have these profiles that can show you where the bottom of the sediment where we found it, the top of the sediment, and then that thicker gray line is the constant slope between the two bridges. And while we haven't completely designed the grade control riffle that we would use to maintain continuity, conceptually this is what it would do. It would be a slope that would be passable by fish. It would have a material that looks like stream bed substrate, and it would maintain the bottom of the channel so that once you get to Crosby Road, you don't have like a waterfall. We don't want to create that. No. So conceptually, that's what it is. And then in the plan set, which I don't see anyone has here, but if I think we have it electronically.
Yep.
This is the restoration planting plan, where we have a couple different things going on here. We have a couple of invasive species treatment areas where we've identified some Phragmites. These are the dark black hatch areas, Phragmites. There's a little bit of Japanese knotweed down by the Northborough town line. Phragmites. Planning to treat those. And then anything in the dark black line is what we are calling our phase 1 planting restoration area, which we would do as part of the construction project. We would install plantings right away. We've thought about our species list and our spacing, but that's like open for discussion if there's anything special you want or don't want in there. And then our plan would be, our construction contracts always include a 3-year monitoring plan that goes along with the contractor's obligations. And so if we have a monitoring plan, we'd go out and we'd look, and if we weren't happy with how the site was revegetating, then we would install the rest of the plantings outside the dark bound. So that's conceptually how we plan to do it. And we also have a restoration plan for the staging area, which is upland but buffer zone, and so we would turn that into, we have that called out as upland planting and defined in the table. This is just another way of looking at the footprint of the phase 1 plantings in the wetland. I won't dwell on that because these are ugly. And then I guess I'll stop there. That's the general gist of what the project, what we think it's gonna look like. This is a picture of the impoundment during a low flow time in August a couple of years ago. It's pretty well vegetated now. The reason why we're leaning towards wanting to do the phase planting plan is because we think there's a lot of native species in there now and they'll just grow right up, and there's always a risk when you bring in equipment and other plants that you might introduce something, and sometimes a light touch is better, but then we monitor and respond if something doesn't go the way we think it should. In terms of permits, you may have seen us before you, last October, we submitted an application to MIPA, and we received our final record of decision in February this year. Today, this afternoon, Mass DCR Office of Dam Safety granted our dam removal permit, which I was not expecting, because
That's awesome.
And we are about to send in our applications for the 401 water quality cert and the 404 cert. And there is actually some feedback between these different permits, and so it's not a problem if we wait and spend our time reconciling any of the conditions that any of the other agencies put together, because we don't want to end up with permits that are all conflicting. As part of the state and the federal permits, we'll be continuing our endangered species for the state and federal reviews and the historic and cultural elements for state and federal reviews. I have on my radar that there might be a local floodplain permit. I don't know if it's been adopted, but I can pretend it has been.
Not yet. That is on the agenda for this year.
Okay.
So, we can kind of give you a heads up of what we're looking at doing so that you can kind of work that in ahead of time.
Mhm.
We do have a soil importation peg only, the soil importation bylaw.
Yeah, it'll
It's
be.
not export though. And I'm trying to remember.
I think it's just import and, like-kind soil.
Okay.
Okay.
That was voted out at town meeting, so as soon as town meeting certified, that will be on the books.
Okay. And if anything else comes up.
Yeah, absolutely.
We get it. And then during construction, there'd obviously be the NIPD's construction general permit, which I think comes under your purview a lot for most developments, so. All right, that's where we are for permitting. And then I think the rest of this here is, because this is an ecological restoration, it's a request for an ecological restoration order of conditions. There were some other elements that, we need to think about. And basically the specifications are you need a Chapter 253 dam safety permit, which we're handling. We might need a Chapter 91 waterways permit, which we expect and will handle. I need a 401. We need to make sure that by taking down the dam, we're not going to impound the 500-year storm. We have results that show that. That we're not going to increase flood levels. So these are all things we've thought about. And then there is one outstanding question for me. We've done our due diligence and we've tried to reach out to the Board of Health here in Berlin, the Neshoba Valley Board of Health. Most of the private drinking water wells in town, on Pleasant Street and around the impoundment, are all super deep. They're like 500 feet deep into bedrock. But there are two houses near the dam itself where I haven't been able to, haven't gotten a solid no. Like, if it were an old farm well and it was dug 5 feet deep,
Right.
I don't have a definitive no on that yet. And that is something that we will want to be sure about before we go
Sure.
forward for anything.
Yep.
And then I have photos, but otherwise I'll take questions and whatever if
Awesome.
anybody. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sticking with this. This project has been, I think the first time Robin came in had to be 7 or 8 years ago.
Mhm. Yes.
So, thanks for sticking with her and with the project and helping get this to this point.
Well, my pleasure.
I didn't realize it had been that long.
It's been a long time.
I was gonna say, I only remember coming in like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Wow.
no, it's been a long time, long time. I think the state listed it as a hazard maybe 10 years ago, maybe more even. So. Awesome. So does anyone on the commission have any questions?
No, this is well done. Thank you.
Thanks.
Couple of observations.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I remember that dam when you could walk along it, there wasn't a tree on it. You know, where you're gonna park all your equipment. That was all piles of lumber. The mill sat right where the dam is. And the logs came down, then they piled the wood up, and across the street was a complete shop, molding shop, sash shops, everything was there. There were about 5 guys living in Berlin that worked at the mill. And it had been in operation for, a couple hundred years. But the thing is, just listening to the cold water trout stream and everything, and you want to worry about that dam for warm water. There's at least 4 beaver dams that I'm aware of between this dam and on up to the Ross site, which is on the main stem, at least 4. And I think there's probably more. And the tributaries, the Brewer Brook tributary's got a dam on it, beaver dam. So, I mean, you gotta go ahead with it, but I just want you to know, people think trout streams, I can remember fishing that, you can't get near the brook. If they were fishing it, you can't get near it. The invasives, trees following it down behind my house, it's incredible the change over the past 60, 70 years of the land and along the brooks, and it's really incredible. So, I mean, you gotta breach the dam. If you gotta do it, you gotta do it. But I predict you won't get a great big healthy ecosystem out of it for long. Then it'll grow up there too. The invasives are horrible. Drive along the roads today and look at the knotweeds, look at the bittersweet. It's incredible.
Yeah, there's a little knotweed over on this side, and bittersweet's a mess in there, but challenge accepted.
There's miles of, you drive along the Berlin roads, this year it's incredible.
Yeah,
Just
I've
hundreds of
noticed
feet of
a lot.
knotweed coming in. And then bittersweet curling up out of it all over like snakes. Yeah, I don't know what it's gonna be like in 10 years. It's pretty serious. Anyway, just thought I'd throw in that hat.
Thanks for that. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
comment-
I mean, it's very interesting, and I'm glad I came, and I'm interested to watch it move forward. I mean, I own 2621 Pleasant, which is the property on the other side of the pond, basically, that got a lot of it borders the pond as well.
Mhm. Oh, the big one.
Yeah, the one that kind of wraps around behind the houses there.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
anyway, there's, like I say, I have a lot of interest in it, but it is interesting. Just, I talked to, not Robin, but she's got a representative or somebody. I talked to Robin a while back, and she talked about this, and she told me how much it was gonna cost, and I'm like, it's gonna take that much? Just take a hole and let the water
Right.
run.
I
Right.
know.
And I'm just amazed at how much goes into it. I mean,
Yeah.
good stuff. I just,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
Massachusetts makes it a little tricky, but in requiring everything, you be a good neighbor. Like, you don't want to cause harm to somebody, or if you have to change something, you mitigate for it. So that's why the permitting is such a trick. But
Right. So, I know that, we're going to continue the hearing, and we're gonna leave the permit open while all of the other permitting happens.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, time-wise? We're not gonna hold you to any of it, but what's your expectation?
The 401, they've been saying it takes a year, or they will give you an answer within a year. And I plan to submit the 401 application next week or the week after. So I would say, just based on knowing their backlog and where the staff is, probably a year.
Okay.
What is the price tag?
It depends on how much sediment we are forced to cart out of there. That is the biggest line item in the budget. It could be anywhere from, I think, 1.8 million to 3.
Does that include all the design work and everything, or is that just construction?
That's just construction. Yeah.
Wow.
But I'm estimating high because we have to get the grant money, and so,
Right.
for
So there's-
budgeting, Heather.
How much material do you think you were gonna have to pull?
Up to 4,500 cubic yards,
Okay.
which is a lot. I mean, if you,
Oh, yeah.
a truck is like
No,
10,
10,
so.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the sediment removal is usually can be the biggest line item when it comes
Yeah.
to.
Because it's not only the removal, it's what do you do with it?
Yeah.
Well, and it's also, is the sediment clean? So
Yeah,
if
'cause
the
if it-
sediment's
if
not
the-
clean, that's even
Yeah.
worse. So.
Yeah, because then you have to pay to have it disposed of in special facilities and all
yeah.
this.
Right.
I work in construction.
Right, it is clean though. We have done a number of tests and.
Yeah, I would have been
Clean, so-
surprised if it wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, it should be. In Northbrook, I think it's one of the few Class A waters. I mean, it's not drinkable. We drank plenty of it swimming when we were kids, but it's fishable. And my grandchildren swim in it down the backyard, and it's one of the cleanest brooks around.
Berlin has done a great job managing your water resources and keeping people out of the floodplain, I just wanna say.
We try hard.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I know that we're going to, so I guess we should talk about that, have this peer reviewed, obviously. We do have someone in mind who is currently working on peer reviewing the big dam removal in Billerica.
That's mine too.
That's yours too? So Pat Garner.
Patrick Garner,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, is who we would like to look at this. It's very fortuitous for us that, because we use him a lot anyway, and that he is currently working on another dam project. So it's kind of top of mind for him.
Yeah. He's been good to work with.
Yeah, so, paying him, we'll get an estimate from him and let you guys know.
Okay,
Okay,
all right.
so we'll start there for that. I'm kind of old fashioned, can I get a paper set of
Sure.
plans?
Yeah. Do you want the plans? The NOI package, I brought 2 copies of the NOI package here.
Okay,
I'm gonna keep the big basis of design, you
Yeah,
have
so
a
we
big
got
one up
ours,
there.
yeah.
But I can leave the other 2 NOI sets here, they're for you.
okay, that would be great. Yep.
I mean, if you want the basis of design, you can have it, I mean, it's good for insomnia.
Right? I just look at the pictures. Okay.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we do like to keep a paper file on copy as well as digital, so you never know which one's gonna last longer, right?
Right. Yep, those 2 blue binders go together. The small one is just the NOI specific stuff, and the basis of design is the library. And if we have to update any of the attachments in the basis of design, we can just send you the revisions and you can
Take
switch
them
out the
Okay,
pages. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Yeah, so I think, this has been a great overview. I'd like, to get Patrick to weigh in. I'd like to spend some time looking at the plans just to,
See
get
what's
an
in there.
idea, see what's in there. And if no one else has any questions, I think we can take a vote to continue the hearing until we hear from you, right? I mean,
Sure.
yeah.
Do you need a time certain and then continue from there, or?
Yeah, I think maybe set a timeline or set a meeting further down and then
Right.
continue if additional time's needed.
Yeah,
So
it'd
what
be
do we think?
when Patrick thinks he could have an estimate by end of June is probably busy for him, so.
Right. Do we want to just give him the summer? Right, because there's no real rush.
No.
Right, so why don't we continue to our first meeting in September, whatever
Okay.
that date is,
It's like September 3rd.
September 3rd.
Unless, yeah. I don't think is anyone going away for Labor Day?
Oh, actually,
Did we?
Maybe.
no, I'll be out the next
Okay,
week. I
okay.
have that thing that I do every year in September. But I should be here for the 3rd.
I'll make a motion to extend the hearing to September 3rd.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask you to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and I'm here to nerd out if any people in the community have questions.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
and-
do public outreach.
I was thinking about that, since it's gonna be such a big project, that we may wanna just schedule a public outreach evening.
Mhm.
You know, kinda advertise it on Facebook and stuff like that, and, have you do the presentation again and take questions. Cause
Yeah.
I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of interest.
We can do that, that's part of our.
That would be fabulous.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. All right, moving right along. 248 Central Street. Come on up, guys. Actually, let's
So
move
are
these,
these-
yeah.
Are these ours?
Yes,
Oh,
Oh.
yeah, these are
Yep.
yours.
Okay.
I'll keep my notebook.
yes.
Do you need any of these?
No, but you
Okay.
know what, I'm gonna keep these.
Thank you. All right, and we'll put
That's a lot of
Patrick
certified
in touch
receipts.
with you also. I know, right?
Oh, wait, there's one more.
Oh, yep.
Sorry. Yeah, it's like 30 pounds. I'm gonna keep this.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are gonna need that eventually.
Yes.
Okay.
I forgot you guys have the screen, so I brought a hard copy of plans, but we'll just use the screen if that's easier. Do you have my last submittal of the colored
Yep,
site plans and all that?
We can be able to.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
perfect then. I'd much rather, this is much easier.
Knocking stuff over.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you for having us again. Just for the record, I'm Andrew Tebow, wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting, and I have Bruce Wheeler, the applicant, here as well.
Hi.
So I believe we were last with you guys on May 7th while we were sorting through some revised materials. So the last update that we had provided the commission was after we received the variance from the Board of Health to relocate the well to the front of the property. At that time, DEP had taken a bit of time to review the application, issue our comments, and we got all of their comments in early May. So they issued quite an extensive list of comments, but they were on the original application. So DEP was yet to receive sort of a significant revised submittal of all the work that was done. And that was intentional, waiting until the Board of Health variance was granted, approved, we had presented it to you guys and moved forward. So now, in advance of this meeting, only a few days ago, so the goal is to sort of walk you through what we had submitted, take any questions you have. It's our expectation that the DEP needs to review these materials as well. But we have now submitted sort of a full round of revised materials, touching on what we've been discussing with you all so far, as well as the DEP comments. So the DEP comments were pretty all-inclusive of the application. Some of them are no longer applicable because we had revised the project to no longer need to go on the other side of the stream and drill under. But there was quite a few comments that certainly still were important to address here. So DEP had issued a couple comments about segmenting the project, clarifying the work to be done on this lot versus other lots, and they had also centered most of the comments around the lawn expansion area and the riverfront mitigation. So the commission will remember that originally we were proposing about 4,186 square feet of lawn expansion off the rear of the house, and we were using the language in 310 CMR 10.585G where it says that you're allowed to come up with additional mitigation measures when square footage is not a relevant measure. And what we were doing was we were removing that stone crossing that we see there. So there's a stone crossing and culvert there in the stream, as we've discussed, that sort of blocks the hydraulic connection from this stream to the stream and then the pond, upgrading it on the neighboring property. So what we've done since then, DEP had questioned whether the mitigation that was being proposed was significant enough for the lawn expansion being proposed. That threshold under 10.585G sort of allows for the applicant to propose mitigation that they deem necessary, but it's our burden to prove to the commission and to DEP that it's adequate. And so when that question came from DEP, we took a look at some other potential areas for mitigation on this site where we could expand upon what we had previously proposed for mitigation. Most importantly, off of this, we have now also shrunk the lawn area from 4,186 square feet to 2,896 square feet. In planning the project, we had realized that there was a decent-sized lawn expansion area, about 1,300 square feet, on the proposed property line on the other side where they would be doing the land swap in the future. And that doesn't make a lot of sense for this project to be proposing lawn expansion in there. It was additional riverfront impacts that we didn't need. So we axed that and we've reduced it now to 2,896 square feet. Now, under the regulation,
So you didn't actually reduce the length, the size of the lawn behind the house. You didn't include, now you just point in green, the green area that is part of the land swap.
Exactly. So all that was
Right.
previously proposed to be moved to lawn.
So
It's
where that
currently
is.
forested.
Okay, so
Right.
yeah, okay. this is
Right,
like-
so you
okay.
included that, and now you've just excluded that.
We've taken all that out, and none
Right.
of that's going to be lawn now.
Right, but you haven't actually changed the size of the lawn behind the house on the lot that would be created should
Exactly.
the land swap happen.
Yep. So on 248, the lawn area you
Okay.
see there is still the same shape and layout that was there previously. We just removed everything that was not directly behind the house.
Okay.
And so, typically under 310 CMR 10.585G, when there is alteration not conforming to the criteria, what we're supposed to do is mitigate at a 2-to-1 ratio. We
Mhm.
were originally proposing the removal of the crossing as sort of the other side of that when square footage isn't a measure, but DEP had questioned that. And so what we did on May 30th, I went out to the property and I took a walk through sort of all of the surrounding resource areas, the wetlands, the river, to look for additional means of mitigation. What we typically would look for is areas where there's debris, areas where there's a lot of invasive species, things that we can mitigate within the riverfront area to improve it. And we look for at least a 2-to-1 ratio to make sure that we can conform to that criteria. So what we see here is in red is areas where we have documented pretty dense invasive species on the property, and we had submitted some photos as well. It's primarily garlic mustard, oriental bittersweet, multiflora rose. So the photos show that it's a well-vegetated, healthy riverfront area and wetland area, but there's quite a few invasive species that are littered throughout. And so what we did was we mapped out all the areas where these invasive species are present. We found that that's 6,366 square feet around the river and the wetlands and in portions of the 25-foot no disturb zone. So that would give us about a 2.2-to-1 ratio of mitigation to the alteration for the lawn that we have with the reduced lawn size. In addition to, we are keeping the stone crossing to be removed. So we are still keeping that as mitigation that doesn't have a relevant square footage attached to it, but now we've also added the 2-to-1 as well to enhance the riverfront area. So what we did is we submitted a mitigation planting plan with this that details how we want to remove the invasives because they're in an otherwise healthy riverfront area. We don't want to be spraying any herbicides or anything like that in these areas because these soils are mucky. A lot of the vegetation here has shallow root systems. In the past, we've had a lot of success hand removing these or by hand tools only. So we had spelled out that we would go into this 6,366 square foot area, full supervision by the wetland scientist for any crew that does that so we can make sure that only the correct plants are being removed, but we would be removing all of the invasive species within this area. And then we came up with a planting plan to add native species back into the area.
Can I just interrupt one more time?
Of course.
So, again, on the land that will be swapped, the blue boxes, you are counting those restoration areas, even though that's probably going to be a road.
We are, as of now, because it is still within the limits of 248. The idea is that we still have this entire lot under this application, so although it's going to be a potential future project, it's still part of this application now, and I believe that it still meets the 2-to-1 without those areas, but I can clarify that. The commission wants to know if we meet the 2-to-1 without those areas, because they are very small. I can get that measurement to make sure that we still have 2-to-1 on our property.
Okay.
It would be my recommendation that we still include those areas as removal, because just for the future, if a project does not move forward or we redesign it, the more mitigation we can do now, the better. But
Sure.
we can make sure that we have 2-to-1 on our property as well.
That would be great.
Absolutely. And then we came up with a planting plan. So what you see here, typically when we do a planting plan like this, you would see plantings littered all over the place, and it's usually using the DEP minimal spacing criteria. So the state gives us calculations that we would use for square footages to show us the number of plants that we need to go in. Because this area is mostly vegetated with native species right now, it's a bit more spread out and intentionally placed because these are the locations where there's very large sections of invasives, but otherwise there's native vegetation around it. So the planting quantity reflects roughly what we need to remove from the site and what we can fit back in there without disturbing the native vegetation. So we had submitted this to you guys only a few days ago and to DEP as well. So we have not received any feedback or comments back from DEP. We expect them to need to review this, but the goal was to sort of alter the project, add mitigation to allow us to meet the riverfront standards under the actual conforming criteria of a 2-to-1 mitigation rather than make the argument that the stone crossing removal could be used. Other than that, we had submitted the full planting plan, and we also submitted a revised WPA Form 3. That was at the request of DEP to measure out exactly what we are replicating or creating as a result of this. I know the site plans themselves had mentioned that we would have about 128 square foot of restored stream area, but the actual Form 3 lists out a couple other requests for areas that we have alterations or replacements of. So we quantified that in the removal of this stone crossing that we're still proposing, we would be now adding 26 linear feet of bank to the site by restoring the stream channel there. It would be about 443 square feet of BBW based on the polygons, because although it's a stone crossing, there's riprap all up and down throughout it, so it's about 443 square feet that we would be removing, and we'd be bringing that back down to the wetland grade right there and replanting it. And then it has the 128 square feet of restored stream area. So in this case, that would be land underwater. So I know you guys only received this a few days ago. The goal is to walk through it today, and if you guys have any questions now, we're certainly happy to take them.
So the restoration would be done, the work would be done by hand?
It would be. So the plantings that we propose, we actually put sizes on everything. We make sure that they can be carried in by hand and installed by hand. So the trees are all 4 to 6 foot trees. The shrubs are all 3 to 4 foot shrubs. So we make sure we plant something that's substantial enough that it has an immediate impact. The shrubs at this size, already produce berries and flowers in their first year, but a crew can carry them in, 2 at a time and plunk them in. And then we specifically call out that any work to be done removing invasive species, the wetland scientist, so in this case myself, is on site the whole time. We watch them, and we usually typically flag out beforehand. We use bright yellow tape and we flag out, remove these plants, and we watch them do it. And in this case, when it's in the wetlands or adjacent to, it's usually mucky soils, the root systems aren't too deep, and you can get these out by hand, and we've had great success doing so.
Awesome. Anybody have any questions?
I know you had already kind of flagged the 2 tealish polygons that are within the land swap rectangle, but I just wonder about planting trees there, and then if potentially that turns into a road, those trees are then going to have to be torn out. I just feel like specifically trees in those 2 polygons
Don't make a lot of sense.
Right.
It's a fair question. It's something we kind of grapple with as we're planning this, that right now those 2 areas are covered in invasive. So the one that's closer to the yard right there is a large garlic mustard patch, and then the one down gradient is a bunch of bittersweet and rose. So we do want to try to make it better now, but it's a fair question, planting trees with the potential to remove them someday.
How do you decide where to spread what, where to plant what? Like, why did you decide to put a red maple there?
Like, could the invasives be removed without planting trees that would potentially need to be uprooted?
Absolutely, you can do that. The other thing you could do is remove the invasives and just put a seed mix down to stabilize it with a native ground cover. And you're not putting woody vegetation there in case you have to go through it. So no matter what, the invasives can be removed. And to answer the question about what goes where, it's taking a look at a few different things. What's there now, what's there in the surrounding area, or what's lacking. So up in that section where we're talking about the garlic mustard patch, up close to the lawn expansion area, it's an otherwise forested slope, and then this section is a little bit bare and covered in garlic mustard. So the idea is to match existing conditions, remove that, and put another tree there that would match what's there now.
Right.
But it's a good question, and certainly the trees can all be relocated onto the limits of 248 to know that they would never be removed, and we could propose invasive species removal with a seed mix in these areas in case it ever is to be removed. That way we don't lose any trees at any point of the project planning here.
Yeah, take a look at that, see
Yeah.
what makes sense.
And we can also clarify square footages to make sure we have 2 to 1 on our property as well. I'll make note of that as well. That's a good question.
So I noticed that one of DEP's comments was that they wanted you to include the full project. I know that's been designed because I'm also on the planning board and I saw those plans
Mhm.
today, as
Fair
a matter
enough.
of fact. So why wouldn't you include that? You basically, your response here was essentially, we don't think we don't think we have to, so we're not going to.
It's a fair way to put it. Yeah, the general overview, the response there was, and I'm not involved in the planning board process too, of course. So from a conservation perspective, there is no criteria in the Wetlands Protection Act that requires that of the regulations, and so what we try to look for is, as long as this project can meet the criteria, then it's not required that they do that. However, we have to make sure that it meets all of the criteria. The actual response to that, I would certainly defer to the client and the engineers. If they do want to end up providing that, that's certainly something that is possible to be done, but it's not a requirement under the Wetlands Protection Act to do, as long as this meets all of the requirements. That was the goal there. And the other thing is these things are on very separate timelines is a possibility here too. So the goal is we have to remove invasives here, plant, monitor for 2 years, and actual construction for another project. It's being planned, but you never know with the actual planning there. So the goal is to have these separate, at least as of now, is my understanding.
And the land swap is on a different time frame as well. So the land swap is in a more immediate short-term agreement versus the development of the rest of the property.
Sure, but I guess from my perspective, and anybody else can chime in, if the larger project doesn't end up happening, then the land swap has happened for no reason.
Well, we need frontage for the property regardless. We need access to it.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that I would say to that
And
is
this land swap was contemplated by the previous owner to our site and the previous owner to this home, and it has specific timeframes to be accomplished in that we're forced to adhere to.
Yes. And then the other thing I would add to that is also in saying that we aren't required to, as long as we can meet the regulations on this site. The other thing is the goal of this increased mitigation plan is to create a situation where just this isolated project on this site is actually a net improvement to existing conditions, insofar as if this future land swap and the future development doesn't occur, then this project was still worth it from the conservation side of things and the time that the applicants put into it as well. So I know the homeowner on 248 is part of their land swap. The one thing that they're looking for is a slight lawn expansion area. Me as a wetland scientist, I try to look at the regulations that we can meet and make a project that's going to make the rest of the site better. So the goal is, if we can come up with that, the future land swap, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, but this project would be permittable as long as it results in that net benefit. That's the way I look at it.
Right. I guess I kind of go back to the parsing of language. So it's not, so that's not required, but other stuff that says we may do, you really want us to do. So we don't have to allow the lawn expansion. But you're asking us to, and we would like to see, more of the reason for the land swap. I don't love the lawn expansion. If it wasn't for that, I would have far less of a problem with this. Just, they're gonna cut, it's a slope that goes down towards the river. They're gonna cut it, they're gonna fertilize it. It's lawn that close to a river is bad news.
No, I understand your concern, certainly.
It's just.
And if there are things we can do to help alleviate those concerns as well, in the past I've seen things like permanent markers go up. I've seen things like conditions that don't allow fertilizer to be used adjacent, things like that. I've seen people require, stone walls at the edge of the lawn to sort of create a permanent barrier. So this, as of right now, it's just a polygon that shows lawn expansion area, but understanding that's a concern, that's certainly something we can look at to see where we can alleviate those concerns as well. Because I understand, and that, of course, is the source of the requirement for all this mitigation and what we're trying to do to make the rest of it a lot better. So I understand that.
Right, and from the homeowner's perspective, I understand if they can get a bigger backyard that overlooks the river, who wouldn't want that? But
it would be perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
But, from my perspective, that's lawns are always bad news. So.
No, I appreciate that comment, because our expectation is to continue this and allow DEP to look at it as well and issue more comments. So from my side of things, I'm happy to take a look at that and see what we can come up with that would help alleviate those concerns, of course.
Yeah, yep, and if we could get, I understand this is the pink is kind of a rough polygon, as you said. I would like some measurements, just, rough measurements about how deep the lawn really would be. And I would love to see a permanent barrier, like in the form of a stone wall or something like that. That would certainly,
What's what's the long dash green line that kind of corresponds with the lawn expansion area?
So that would be the edge of the erosion controls that sit right along the 25. So this lawn was made sure that it stays out of the 25, so that line's there to demarcate where they would be putting erosion controls outside the 25 and ending it right there.
Okay.
What is there right now? Is that trees?
It is mostly trees. It's a slope that goes down, so the understory, or the canopy is mostly trees, and then the understory is mostly invasives there. It's primarily bittersweet and garlic mustard, but it is primarily forested, so there would be some tree clearing and then conversion to lawn there.
How steep is the grade?
I can have them clarify. It's a pretty steep slope right there.
Yeah.
It is. It would be. It's. I
We've
believe
walked it.
3-to-1, something like that. It's pretty steep. Yeah, I think you guys have seen this
Yeah.
all. Yeah, it is a steep slope.
Yeah, there's no there's no numbers on the topo lines, but,
Yeah, that's what I'm struggling with on this one, but I can have them
Yeah.
add that so we can actually measure the grades out.
yep.
It is worth clarifying. There is no intent to change the grades, so
Yeah.
we're not altering the grades this close to the wetlands. We're not adding retaining walls or anything. It's a grade that they could mow it. It's just it'll be steep and not.
But what's the point of having lawn if you're not gonna mow it? So.
They'd be able to mow
right,
it at
yeah,
least. Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Right,
So
so, and they're not gonna gather the clippings and put them in a compost pile in the front yard, and it's a huge source of nitrogen between the grass clippings and the fertilizing. A lot of people in Berlin don't fertilize their lawns. A lot of people who move to Berlin do.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I'm happy to tweak this
Um,
mitigation plan a little bit to address some of those comments. I think they're good ones.
Yeah.
How would you say the percentage of likelihood that this land swap will happen? How would you?
That's a good question.
I'm
Bruce.
sorry,
I'll defer to you.
Yeah, what would you say the likelihood is? I mean, is there a percentage of feeling that you have about that? Just general.
It's extremely high.
Okay, thank you.
I think we have an agreement in place, and the intentions are all mutual.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I know this
Right.
permit is a major point of that.
Right. Well, and you need approval from the board, from planning board as well. True? To divide the lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
How much frontage does that have as it is? You've got quite a bit of frontage there to the left side of where the dog thing is.
Oh, on that side?
Yeah.
They do have quite a bit of frontage. It's too steep to put any roadway in. That's the reason why they need this land swap is all of the frontage that's to the west of this property is far too steep to install a roadway. The only viable land is this parcel that we've segmented off right there. So that's what drove the land swap. If that land was usable and not as steep as it is, we wouldn't even be talking to you guys about any of this application right now. Basically, the land that's all owned right there isn't accessible otherwise, which is why the previous property owners were putting this land swap in place.
Are they planning anything on the other side of the railroad? Do you know of? The property crosses over on the other side of the railroad, right?
Yes.
It does. I wasn't involved in the planning board process, but I believe originally we were looking at that as a
Yeah,
possibility.
it has two units on the other side of the railroad.
Right. And have you guys started anything with the state to get permission to cross that?
We filed an application.
You did?
Yeah.
When-ish?
2 months ago.
Okay.
Which application is that?
The application for crossing of the railroad bed.
Is that the,
It's called 40/54A. It's a regulation that's been around for over 50 years, and I've been waiting for that phrase to be said here. Because this dead railroad isn't just some innocuous little thing.
Mhm.
This is the longest rail-to-trail conversion in New England. It intersects with 18 other trails that are under development. Once this is built out, there will be, in Worcester County alone, over 960,000 people a year using this. And you must have a hearing before DOT to explain the project before a building permit can be issued for construction. I will be there.
So will
I'll be
I.
at the meeting.
Awesome.
I'm the first realtor in the United States specializing in the sale of houses near rail trails. And it would be a shame for you to be building houses here, and then a few years later, the trail came and no one living in this development was told about it. We're gonna wanna make sure that everybody knows what's about to happen here.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Thank you, Craig. All right, does anybody have any other comments or questions about this? So we're, obviously gonna wait for DEP's new comments on the new
Absolutely.
plan.
Yep.
You're gonna see what you can do about some of the things that we were concerned about.
Yep, absolutely.
And when do you wanna come back?
I think as of now, let's go for the next meeting. Assuming DEP might not be ready by then.
Right,
But
right.
in
So-
case, I don't want to just push
Right.
it out knowing they have a land swap agreement in place and the timing's important. So we'll go for the next one. If we don't hear anything from DEP, I
Right.
think let's
So
chat
we're
ahead of
not
time.
having a July 2nd meeting.
Yeah, oh, that's right, yeah.
Right, so it will be July 16th. See, I could have done that
Yeah.
math.
we give DEP a couple more weeks, so that's
Right.
actually, that's a good thing.
Right, right.
That's, and then,
Um,
I know they're backed up right now, so that's helpful. So, I think that's the plan then.
Okay, awesome. I think we have to vote
What are we voting on?
to extend the hearing to
Oh.
July 16th.
I make a motion to extend the hearing to July 16th.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask you to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, guys.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for your time.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
I'm gonna take off, but if I could, just long-term resident of Berlin, I just wanna thank you folks for the time that you put into this stuff, and I'm impressed with the size of the group, I have to say. It's a lot of great sense of
Yeah,
pride.
we have a good group.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yes, thank you for coming in and showing interest.
Before I run, you guys received the continuation for 180 River Road
Yep.
West, correct?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, the goal is just to let Pat Garner get out there and get a look at it. I don't think we'll have anything substantial to talk about until then, so. Awesome.
All
Thank
right.
you guys for moving that one forward as well.
Awesome.
day.
All right, thank you.
And all of us
All
on
right.
the rail trail.
For both of you.
That's continued, and that's also continued. All right, good.
This is
Moving right along. I know, right?
What a night.
So, it is.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of reading on it so far.
All right, guys.
I've seen it a couple times.
I reassemble corridors.
Yeah, spit it out.
Thank you. Yep. All right. Old business, 61 Lancaster Road is very exciting. That is the site of the structural silt fence.
Love that thing.
All of the work has been remediated. We have an as-built plan that shows what has been built, which is fabulous. And
No
Yeah.
more structural silt fence.
yeah.
Wow, that
I'm
looks
almost
Right?
sad to see it gone.
I didn't think they'd be able to fix it.
I know, they did, I have to say, I was
Did a masterful
impressed.
job.
They did a nice
It's
job.
like they had to put in a lot more crushed rock.
Yes, they did, but they,
They do it by hand?
they must have, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah,
Exactly.
so, but, they did a great job, I really,
Yeah, it
I
looks really
was-
good.
Yep,
Shocked.
yep, yep, and then they built a stone wall, did you take pictures of that too?
Oh, that looks nice.
Snow wall kind of
Right.
comes up.
Right.
I don't have a
They
picture.
have installed the parking area, but they did a good job with it, so,
Yeah.
it's further up than I thought it was, than they originally were asking for. They were asking, I believe, for that part
More
that
down
has
there.
grass, that it would be
Yeah.
further down there. So it's further up near the house.
And it's just gravel, it looks like.
It's just gravel, and the stone wall continues along the back of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was what, 2 cars? Yeah.
That seems
Um,
pretty reasonable compared to what they were.
What they originally were looking to do.
Proposing, yeah.
Yep, exactly. So, yeah, did you have any comments you
No.
wanted to make? Yeah, no, the mosquitoes chased us out of there fairly quickly, but.
Dude, I almost got eaten alive. with
Yeah,
this
you
guy.
were in the woods.
Yeah.
Yep. So if anybody has any more comments or questions, otherwise we will take a motion to issue a certificate of compliance.
So moved.
Oh, second.
All right, good job.
Oh,
You beat them.
I waited a couple
Right.
beats too. I was trying to
I was
get
gonna
some.
jump in there.
Any further discussion?
We just had that one waddle that was still there, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I will request that Scott cleans it up.
Yep, yep. There was one wattle that they had pulled up and was just piled that they missed when the cleanup happened. That was further up, though.
In here.
Yep, exactly. All right. Anything else? Hearing nothing, I'll ask you to vote. All those in favor of issuing a certificate of compliance, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, 60 Lancaster comes off our list. I'm so excited.
It took a minute.
Yeah.
That was like a year.
Oh, or more,
I
yeah.
was gonna say, it feels like it was
I
forever.
Yeah.
think that was extant when I started.
Yeah. Yep.
Which was over a year ago.
All right. Moving on to trail maintenance.
So, I should have gotten photos, but I didn't. Finally pulled that old pontoon boat out of the Brewer Brook area. It's still chilling out in the parking lot right now, but
There was a pontoon boat in there?
there was.
Yeah, it's been
an
there for
inflatable storage
decades.
Yeah, it's been there for, ever since I've been walking there, which has been for 15, 16 years now.
Yeah.
So,
And it looked old and very weathered then.
yeah.
Yeah.
Been there about 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, dragged that out to the parking lot.
How'd you ever get it in there?
I mean, it's pretty easy.
I didn't leave it there.
Anyway,
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so
good
got
job.
that,
I know the trail coming out
Yeah,
of there,
yeah.
and there's a lot of up and down.
yeah,
And
the up and down was okay. It was the occasional tree that just kind of wanted to like kick it one side or the other, and then the cross slope, you know, the cambered off camber was fun.
Yeah.
But Susan, my wife, helped out, so.
well, thank her for us,
I will.
and thank you.
Yeah.
That's like Walter said, that's been there for about 20 years.
Yeah.
And
Felt good to get
Could
that out
sell
there.
it.
Really can't. I had to cut holes in it to drain the water out of the pontoons because it was just that bad. We found some snakes too. That was fun.
Okay.
So where's it go now?
Just a couple of ribbon snakes and like a black water snake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All totally harmless, of course, because New England. But it's going to end up at the transfer station at some point.
Yep.
I think we should be able to get it tomorrow, right?
awesome. I'm telling you, just tie a rope behind one of the trucks. Oops.
There you go. I guess meeting's over.
Yeah. Whoever turned on the light decided we weren't going to be here that long.
We've mopped too long, I didn't get a nap today.
And I heard back from the Eagle Scout that had proposed putting a bridge in off of the the lower Linden parking lot. And now that he's not crazily applying to colleges and doing his, that's her something. He's back in the game basically. So I met with him and we got a materials list together on Monday.
Awesome. Has
And
he designed, drawn
we talked
anything
about
out?
design. He hasn't drawn anything yet, but we talked about it. He was meeting with people in the Boy Scouts and trying to figure out funding. I was like, well, I might be able to help out with that. Just
Yeah, we might be able to help out with that as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And it is a place where mountain biking happens, so New England Mountain Biking Association might be willing to throw in some money as well.
Okay.
So
Yeah, if he could just put together some sort of, even a rough sketch.
Yeah.
And bring it in, present, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah.
What
I mean,
is it for, Ethan?
So, a bridge. There's a section that is
You know, on the
pretty-
Horseshoe Pond
Yeah,
property.
yeah.
Yeah,
When
it's
you
like
go
that-
in from Linden
Right,
Street,
right.
that area that's needed a bridge forever.
Someone had put a bridge in there once. It must be dilapidated by now, though. But
No, that's further up. That
Further
I
up?
think so.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
like a 2 foot wide by
Yeah.
like 10 or 12 foot long bridge
Oh,
there.
yeah, yeah.
This is lower down. It's a section that just is perpetually
yeah.
muddy.
Yeah.
It's right before that first steep kind of
Right.
uphill
Right.
section of trail.
Right, but before we owned the property, we
couldn't
couldn't
do anything with it.
do anything with it.
Yep.
So is that,
So-
is that an esker or a drumline? I think it's an esker. It's glacial activity.
Which the
Right,
uphill section?
As soon as you cross that wet spot.
Yeah.
You get the sharp rise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the geologic feature is offhand, but it's steep.
But it, you know, it's a real nice feature to talk about when you
Yeah.
have a
You
hike.
might want to suggest to him that he do a little research and find out, add it as part of his project.
We could do that. And then when I arrived, there was a couple down trees there too, which
Oh, you said.
I had planned on taking care of one that was further in, that I noticed when I was trying to assess stuff for trail reroutes and some work that I would like to do back in there, and then I ran into that, so.
Happen to have your chainsaw with you?
I did, because I was taking care of one further in, so it was like a old dead tree came down, caught a younger tree on the way down, broke it off, and knocked it not quite all the way down, so I was able to clear that.
Oh, those are the pictures you sent me when I was driving the other day.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I'm driving. I have no idea what these are.
Yeah, so-
yeah, that's awesome.
Yep, so cleared that, and then I went in and cleared the other one that I had originally intended on dealing with, so I got some decent amount of work done for a couple hours on a Monday night, so.
Excellent.
Of course, I missed the demise of the structural silt fence.
Yeah.
And then I ordered tools, so that's also.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, we need to sign that paperwork tonight. Awesome. Conservation, is that all you have for trail maintenance?
Yeah.
It's like, as if that wasn't enough. But
I was
I
gonna
didn't
try
want to cut you off
No,
either.
no, we're good. I was gonna try to flag some reroutes, because there's that one, I'm not sure what the trail name is offhand, because I'm bad at trail names, but, which is ironic, but, there's this one trail that's basically a wet stream bed, and
Okay.
for about 3 months out of the year at least, so I wanna just abandon that and do a switchbacked, sane ascent trail in that area instead.
Awesome.
But that's gonna be an involved project.
Sure. Awesome. All right, conservation restrictions. So you put the Horseshoe Pond Constant CR on here.
Mhm. But there's no dates, I don't think, on the list.
No. I'm trying to think of the status of that one. There's been so many lately.
I know.
Right. Highland Ridge has gone to the state, has gotten, the final state sign-off has happened, and I believe SVT got the signature page to add to the packet from the state last week. So, it's done. It should be recorded and available on the Registry of Deeds website. I can also see if we can get a copy, though, for the trustees to have.
Okay, thank you.
Can't even spell now. All right, there we go. Excellent. So Horseshoe Pond CR. Oh, right. So we all agreed. The lawyers all agreed. I think they have now submitted it to the state for feedback. I believe is where that
Yeah.
stands. Yeah. I also had Maddie and I had a meeting. Right, you were there.
Yeah,
With-
yep, with SVT. or
With
South
SVT last week, right? With SVT, me, Maddie, Kristen, and Town Council about the Riverbridge CR and the Powder House Hill CR. So that's all kind of moving along, baby stepping, but moving along. And Ball Hill Road Conservation Area, your bird banding.
Bird banding. So we have gone out twice so far this season. Some of the highlights have been a recaptured veery that was originally banded in 2023. We didn't see it in 2024, but it was back in 2025.
Nice.
Tell them where they migrate to.
So these guys, they migrate all the way down to South America, like deep into South America too. It's
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Their
so-
calls are really beautiful too. They're
Yeah.
one of the,
Yeah.
like them and of course I can't remember the name right now. Never mind. But,
What are they called?
yeah.
Well, the wood
Veery.
thrushes.
Wood
are-
thrush, thank
yeah.
you. That was the one I was looking
Yep.
for.
Yep.
I was like, wood cock? No, that's the
Yeah.
goofy little
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah. Yep. So
Yeah.
they're a species of thrush. Come all the way back up here to breed and go all the way down to South America for the winter. So he's made that journey
Maybe he just
multiple
decided
times.
to stay last year.
Yeah.
Maybe he met somebody.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Chances are he was probably breeding on the property. He just was lucky to not find a mist net. So.
Yep.
And then this past Sunday we caught a red-bellied woodpecker with its baby. So this is an adult male with a juvenile.
Who
That was an
named that
interesting
red-bellied woodpecker?
Right?
Huh?
I know.
But if you look at
it
the
does-
belly,
it
Bird
does actually
names
have
are
red belly.
bonkers.
Yeah, they are. But they do actually have red bellies. I did take a picture of this one's belly to show that it does actually,
Oh,
in
for
fact,
heaven's sake,
have
there
a
is
red
a
belly.
spot of red.
All right, let me see.
Yeah.
Let me see. Prove it.
Oh yeah, yeah. See
Yeah.
that little teeny
Yeah,
tiny.
there's a little
yeah.
red wash.
Yes. See that little rusty spot? Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
Not the reddest
no,
part.
not the.
Right,
not
no.
the-
Yeah, right?
Sorry.
No.
Well, there probably already was a red-headed
Yes,
woodpecker.
there is a red- yeah.
Yeah.
So is the juvenile hungry or pissed off or both?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's yes.
All the above.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need your earmuffs so
And
these two guys.
embarrassed because he's bald
Right.
still.
It's gonna come in any minute.
Mine too? It was an interesting catch because the juvenile started really squawking as Maddie was picking it up out of the net, and all of a sudden, over 3 or 4 feet away, all the squawking started. This one flew up, I think.
And flew into the net.
So they were both in the net, but there was
Oh,
definitely
oh.
everything else. Like there was blue
Oh, I
jays
see.
around that were just like, what is going on? Like
cacophony
everything
was-
started coming in. Like, what is going on?
Wow.
Oh, my
Yeah.
story.
But yeah, they are quite loud. We also caught our first ruby-throated hummingbird on the side.
Have you ever caught one in a net before?
So we have caught them in nets before, but this is the first time catching one at Ager Woods.
They're so small, and
they
I
are.
mean the holes in the nets aren't big, but they're
Like,
not
tip-
tiny.
I know.
Right,
I'm also
right.
almost surprised you even got caught.
Yeah, I think a lot of times they probably do actually can just fly through.
Yeah.
Right, just hit it
I almost
right.
Yeah.
kicked a pair of them the other day. They were flying,
Yep.
and they like darted out from behind my neighbor's like porch and just like went right at my legs, and I was just like, "Whoa!"
Were you
they're
wearing
aggressive little guys.
flower-scented pants?
No, I think they were just fighting and not really paying attention to where they
Sure.
were going.
Yeah.
We'll probably aiming for Saturday because I think Saturday's going to be the cooler of the days this weekend and
I
not
know,
raining.
right?
So.
So. And then a blue jay.
Yep, a nice little blue jay.
I've never seen a blue jay look more meek.
I know, right?
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh,
damn it.
Yeah. How do you hold them to get them to stay there? Do you like hold their legs?
Pretty
or-
much she's holding their legs, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm up as close to the belly as I can be.
You can
Yeah.
tell
But yeah.
on the red
Yeah,
belly
you can
when
see
they
his little-
see
Yeah.
the feet
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
held.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. My favorite part is watching her weigh them, though.
Yeah.
She's got an assortment of like prescription bottles and other things, and just puts them in head first,
Aw.
and it holds them in there while they get weighed.
Nice.
You gotta tear the tube
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then jam them in
Exactly,
first,
yeah.
and then they're just like awkwardly
Well,
just.
not jam.
I've been in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funnier when you say jam, though.
Yeah.
Even though that's absolutely not how you should do it.
Yeah.
They nest in there very nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
gently place the bird in the tube.
Yeah. Awesome. And then the forest stewardship plan.
Oh, there's one more thing
Oh.
about that area. There's a tree leaning parallel to the trail, and there's one down across the trail that you can actually step over. It's about 10, 12 inches in diameter. So I wonder if at some point we need to wander out there and.
Well, or is it
And-
keeping the ATVs at a minimum?
Hmm.
It
If
just-
you can walk over it easy, we
Yeah.
might want to leave it.
Okay. All right, what do we- Sorry.
Yeah.
Now we can go to the.
It does look like somebody brought an ATV and did
Well,
donuts in the parking lot.
Right,
but-
yeah,
You
did you
could-
ever?
I never.
Okay.
I never.
All right.
Did you get the pictures of the parking lot that they did the?
No, I can
Yes,
get it
we've
this
had
weekend.
more vandalism at the
Yeah.
parking lot.
I think I did. take some photos.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So we have ATV problems up there,
Mhm.
Yes, right, which is why I think you should leave the tree if,
right?
as long as it's,
agree
you know,
with
for
that.
walkers, it's,
Right.
if it's easy to get over.
Right.
I'll take a close look at it and see if there are any, you know, spikes that need to be cut off. or
Yeah,
any-
just
yeah.
clean it and make it safe for people to walk over, but.
Mhm.
See if I don't have some photos. Anyway, move on. Sorry.
Okay, the stewardship plan?
Haven't heard from Gary. I've poked him twice now, so I don't know if you want to
Right,
call
and
Walter.
but he wanted to start like later in the season anyway, right?
Right.
So.
But it would be nice to just know what grant applications we're filling out. Like I've tried looking up to see if I can find it, but
Oh, didn't he send it? Oh,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Right, because when we met in the parking
worst
lot,
kind
he
of
said that
donuts.
he was gonna send it.
Yeah.
Send the link, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
just in the parking lot, but that means they're
It's a
probably.
little disappointing to deal with
The
that.
neighbors kind of
Mhm.
look out
Right.
for them too, right?
Carolyn, just for a brief moment for the Island Ridge, the finale,
Yeah.
what we hope think is would it be appropriate for Maddie just to send them a short message with a heads up to the trustees? Would that be appropriate, or how would you feel about that?
So they are copied on that email where
Unless we have somebody ID them.
Matt Morrow had
Oh,
submitted
okay.
the request
It's
for.
like, okay, we know what's happening,
Yeah.
we documented it.
Oh,
they
so
are
they
right.
are on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's answer the question.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, well, we'll keep poking
Yep. poke-
Gary
see.
and. Ugh. So, and then the last thing that's on the agenda, I assume we're done with the internship program for the summer?
Other than those 2 students who we
Okay.
haven't heard from.
Yeah, maybe we should just reach out again,
Sure.
just poke him, and now that, so school's over this week?
I think.
Yeah.
Ended
I think
Monday.
so.
Sounds like-
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're done.
ended Monday?
My neighbor's
Okay.
a teacher.
They made them come
Yeah.
back for 1 day.
Yep, half day.
That's so dumb.
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta get your 182 days.
Yeah. So I think, trying to think, we have been interviewing for Maddie's job. We've narrowed it down to 3 candidates that we're gonna bring in for second interviews.
Is the whole committee going to interview him
Well,
when you get up down?
That'd be one way to
Who's
do it.
doing the
I trust your
interviewing?
judgment.
Me, Maddie, and Kristen have been
Okay.
doing the
Okay.
interviews. I did okay the first time, right?
I say more than okay.
Yeah.
So does anybody have anything else?
Make a motion to end the meeting at 8:39 PM.
Second.
All those, any further discussion?
No.
Oh, no, it's
No.
not
Not
debatable.
debatable.
That's right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.